All right. Good morning. This is a public hearing of the Chatham Conservation Commission being held on Wednesday, March 24th, 2021, in accordance with the provisions of the Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Town of Chatham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Chapter 272. It's being recorded live on Channel 18 and recorded for the archives. Today's hearing is being conducted via remote video conference pursuant to Governor Baker's emergency orders prohibiting the in-person gathering of large groups. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can access the proceedings as provided for in the order. The agenda and copies of documents for review today are posted on the town website. To all participants, please mute yourselves now if you haven't already, and remain muted unless you are speaking. If you're attending via phone, please mute using *6, and you can use *6 again to unmute. If you're attending via video conference, please turn off your camera unless you're speaking. As we consider each matter, I'll ask for comments and questions from commissioners and participants. Please indicate that you wish to speak by unmuting and addressing the chair. The commission will vote on each matter by roll call. So that we have, Commissioner Williams, as you know, is absent today. Commissioner Kitts is on extended leave. And I'm the Vice Chair, Bob Rawls, and I'll try my best to fill in for Janet today. This is my first time chairing the commission, so please bear with me. So that we have a record of a quorum, I'll now ask each commissioner to state their name and say present. Commissioner Delvecchio.
Delvecchio, present.
Commissioner Clark.
Clark, present.
Commissioner Latin.
Latin, present.
And I believe that constitutes a quorum. We also, I want to say that we have a new associate member joining the commission today. So I want to say a welcome to Trina Franciconi. Please tell me, Trina, if that's the correct pronunciation.
Very close, Francisconi.
Francisconi, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have any experience with the associate program, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think that you can ask questions.
Yes.
But you cannot vote.
Correct. Yeah, I'm
correct?
in a learning phase, and
learning phase.
As I get a little bit more information and I feel more comfortable, then I can graduate on to becoming a full commissioner.
Right. Very good. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
So I believe that Dr. Duncanson has an announcement as well.
Bob, I just want you to know there's an echo of your voice in the background.
Okay.
Yeah, again, I think if we could ask anybody on the phone who's calling in, if they could please hit *6 to mute, that hopefully will take care of the echo. But anyway, thank you, Bob, for the introduction. I'm Dr. Robert Duncanson, Director of Health and Natural Resources for the town of Chatham. And it's my pleasure today to introduce to the commission, as well as the folks watching, our new conservation agent. So starting with us today, we have Nicole Smith, who was recently appointed as the new conservation agent. She most recently was the assistant conservation agent for the town of Harwich, where she served for approximately the last 5 years. She brings an extensive background in conservation, having a bachelor's degree in wildlife biology with a second major in natural resources and environmental science. While working in Harwich, she served in various capacities, including field work as well as administration. She's also worked as a division assistant for municipal health and building departments, and as a coastal waterbird monitor during various times with other towns, including Truro and Dennis. She's very familiar with Chatham and our situation, as anyone living on the Cape would be. She lives in Brewster. And so with that, I'd like to welcome Nicole to the team. And she's on the call today. She's just going to kind of be sitting back, listening in and seeing how things operate. But we're very glad to have her on board and wish her and the commission a good working relationship going forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Bob, and welcome, Nicole.
Hi, thank you for
And-
having me.
It's a pleasure. Glad you're here. And I think that there's been some discussion of having a meet and greet, a virtual meet and greet between the commissioners and yourself when Janet returns. And I guess you're also going to be away for a week shortly.
Yes, so I had a planned vacation already from April 1st through the 7th. I'll be back on the 8th. So
Okay, all right.
anytime after that, I would love to meet with all of you, see your expectations for me and everything like that.
Very good. We'll get that arranged. All right. So I guess we should get going with our business. See if I forgot anything. I think not. So Paul, if you would like to give us our first item of business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, Nicole. First on the agenda today is a request for determination of applicability, 49 Gillis Road, Elizabeth and Spencer Kennard. Proposed construction of a new deck off an existing porch, removal of one tree and planting at the same address, map 4C, parcel CG1. That's the end of that.
All right. Is the applicant on the line, or some representative of the applicant?
Hi.
I heard a hi.
Hello.
Hello, there we are.
Can you hear me?
This is Spencer.
This is Spencer. Okay, Spencer, you're on the line. Okay, good. So this is an RDA, request for determination of applicability, and your interest is in building a deck.
Correct.
And it's a wraparound deck, and the application indicate, I guess what you have is a site plan from a previous project that indicates or suggests that the coastal bank sort of cuts through part of where the deck would be.
That would be correct.
Right. Okay. And was that previous project? There is an echo. Even I'm hearing the echo. I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of it. Sure how I can do that or why it's happening. So the deck will have, well, I guess actually go ahead and tell us what you want to say about it, and then we'll ask questions.
What I want to say about it, it's just basically, a deck coming off an existing porch, and where the sonotube for footings need to go would just hopefully do minimal effect on the coastal bank. I mean, I need to have them in there for support, and there are going to be 3 holes that will hold the sonotubes and the concrete, and then we'll be building up from there.
Okay. Well, then I think we'll just go around the table and see what questions we have. We'll start with you, Bob DeVecchio.
Yes, hi. Okay, the sonotube locations, they're within that, there's like a rock wall, correct?
Correct. It's sort of, yeah, it's not a temporary wall. It's basically the side of the hill.
Yeah, so they're within that footprint. And just the sonotubes would be installed, that would affect the coastal bank, nothing else?
That's correct.
And then you have a set of stairs coming around the other end, for the deck itself?
There'll be stairs on the patio side that's already existing, and then there will also be stairs pretty much where there are on the front of the house on the porch. There are stairs coming in there, so we will be keeping those stairs.
Okay, so the additional stairs would just be off the back towards the patio?
Towards the patio, correct.
Okay. As long as it's within that same footprint of, the existing wall, inside of that wall, I would approve it. I do have some concern about the vegetable garden on the coastal bank itself, further down. But for this project alone, I would be okay with just those sonotubes. And that's all I have to say, Bob. Thank you.
Okay. Tom Clark, do you have any questions?
Yeah, my question, unfortunately, is that the site plan, and now it sounds like it was an old one that was put up, given Bob's other comments, but the site plan that I was given had a big smear across the middle, which made it very difficult to evaluate the project. I'm glad that Bob mentioned the coastal bank, because that's almost completely missing from the plan I was given, and there wasn't one in the Dropbox. So this is a procedural. I had requested a replacement plan, but it never happened. So I assume, given all the goings on, that was overlooked. But my concern is the fact that we're building a deck on a coastal bank. I just that really troubles me in terms of stability and other factors that unfortunately I couldn't really evaluate because of the inadequacy of the materials that were provided, which I'm not saying are the fault of the applicant. That may have been something that happened in-house. I don't know. But that troubles me, having building a deck on a coastal bank, and even with the sonotubes, which I recognize our informal regulations recognize as mitigation.
Mr. Chairman, can I just, I want to, it's Paul.
Okay.
The cost of doing a new plan would be really substantial for what is really an alteration for just a few sonotubes. That's the alteration, really. Maybe one tree has to come out. But I think it was the cost that was involved, and then he submitted this plan voluntarily after the chairman went to the site and saw it, and we put it up on the website just yesterday. So it was, to get a new plan done just for this project would be thousands of dollars. So I think that was a consideration.
I wasn't asking for a new plan. I was asking for a clear and unsmeared copy of the old plan.
So we have Tom, we have two plans at play here. One has some hand-drawn, I think it's basically a hand-drawn depiction of where the deck would be.
Right, I got that.
Right, okay. And then there's another one that Mr. Kennard showed me when I was at the site, because some couple of questions I asked. And what he had is or correct me, Mr. Kennard, is an old site map from a previous edition, circa 2004 or something like that.
Correct.
Right. Okay. And that site map showed at the time what the resource boundaries are, whereas the other one, the current one or the new one, didn't show that, at least in the digital copy that I have. So so which one, Tom, are you saying is smeared?
It's labeled site plan, and it looks like it's a copy of a blueprint,
Okay.
given its fuzzy nature.
Right.
And it's stamped March 9th, 2021. That is, the current stamp. There's also a stamp from way back when that looks like, wow, I can't even tell what it looks like. It's 11/16/63 or 93. I can't really make that out because that's not very clear. It didn't reproduce well.
The site plan is November 13, 2003.
Three.
It was prepared by Ryder Wilcox.
Right.
The one that you're looking, the one that's on the screen right now, it's the site plan from 2003.
Okay.
All right.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
So let's, yeah, any more, I guess do you have other comments or questions, Tom?
No, I'm just concerned about building a deck on the top of a coastal bank.
Okay. Commissioner Latin, do you have anything that you would like to hear?
Well, the only thing that I would like to say is that I am concerned about the ground under where the deck will be and how that will be taken care of so that it doesn't erode, because it does go down the hill. And I just want to make sure something's done to make sure that that erosion does not happen.
All right. Okay. Anything else? Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. So yeah, I have a similar concern. About. I think when I was there, there was no plan to alter the ground beneath the deck, so it would basically be after the deck is in as it is now. So I mean, you can make the argument that if it's not eroding now, it wouldn't erode then. I don't know. The alteration to the bank is largely consists of the 3 sonotubes. So as Paul said, it would seem to be a minimal disturbance. The fact that it is on a coastal bank, I agree, is a concern, but it is a minimal intrusion. So I think in general, I would be willing to support it. I would be interested in having or making sure measures put in place to be sure that there is no erosion in the deck, that altered pattern of runoff from the deck after it's in and so forth. So I'd be interested in seeing something like that. Paul also mentioned no, it was Bob who mentioned the vegetable garden. I saw it as well. And let me ask you a question, Mr. Kennard. The 2003 edition, did that have a mitigation area associated with it?
It did not. It was on the left side of the house.
It was out of the resource.
Correct.
Yeah, out of the resource area. Okay.
Just out of.
Yeah, mitigation was not called for. Okay.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. So the vegetable garden is, on the coastal bank, and we actually have a lot of applications these days for vegetable gardens in resource areas, and a number of which we have turned down. So what I would suggest, when we go to look at applications, we will sometimes notice other things, and that is what happened here. A number of us notice the garden, and we can't just pretend like we didn't see it. So what I would suggest, and I talked with Paul a little bit about this, is for you to submit an administrative review for the garden so that we can get it recognized, get it on the books, and deal with it just deal with it in a above ground way, if you would be amenable to that.
Yeah, basically it was been there for, ages. So,
well, has it been there since the Wetlands Protection Act was implemented, is the question.
I have no idea. I mean, it was, there has been a garden there for a long time. So I just basically have been taking care of it. So
right. Okay.
My mother-in-law lived there before, and, it's been in the family forever. So.
Oh, so.
And my.
It might have been there since the 60s
sure.
or 50s or whatever. Okay. Yeah. Okay. There was another question that about some of the tree topping that's occurred on the property. And I had a similar thought about that, where you might or should submit an AR to permit selective pruning of the very nice view you have of the water. And I'm expecting that if the deck were approved and put into place, that you may wish to do more pruning or clearing for the view, for increased view that you would have from the deck. So I would like to see you submit an AR for any future pruning that you do of the trees for the purposes of enhancing your view, especially from the new deck. Would you be amenable to that?
Outside of trying to remove that one pine tree, I don't foresee any more pruning. I mean, the deck will be high enough so that the view is pretty much unobstructed.
Okay.
But
Well, if it
I
turns out,
understand
yeah,
I'm
if
not
it turns
planning
out
to
that
do any pruning.
if it turns out that you do want to do some pruning, I would ask you to submit an AR for that, so that it's all
Okay,
on the books.
understood. No problem.
All right. So this, I guess what we need to do, without any further discussion, anybody else have any further comments, questions on this, is to call for a vote on whether we have a negative or a determination for this RDA. So I'll start with Bob.
I'd say a negative on my end, and I would just like to see some mitigation, especially if that tree is removed.
So by mitigation, you mean a replacement in kind of the tree?
Either that or maybe even some shrubbery where those sonotubes Karen mentioned, some erosion that may take place there. So maybe some shrubbery around the deck itself to try to.
No problem with that. We were planning to put something around there anyway, just to sort of cover up where the sonotubes are going. So I have no problem with that. I just want them to have something that will, survive in that area. So
Right, would have to be native vegetation.
Right,
Um,
that's fine with me.
yeah.
Of course, the issue with an RDA is that we can't condition it. And so any promises made by Mr. Kennard to mitigate are essentially on the honor system.
Mr. Chairman, we have, sort of through my experience over the years, there is the ability to condition a negative.
Oh, okay, good.
In this
All right.
particular case, though, I think with your concerns, I think we could do an AR for the plantings if it's done by hand. So we can handle it that way.
Okay. So, Mr. Kennard, whenever you put your mitigation measures in place, as we're discussing here today, it'd be another AR, and the agent could review and approve. Does that sound good?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So, Commissioner Clark.
I never keep the voting straight on this. A yes vote is that it is.
No, a negative determination means that the Wetlands Protection Act doesn't apply, essentially.
Okay, then I vote no.
Okay. Commissioner Latin?
No.
Okay. So I will vote aye, and so that's a split vote. And Paul, you'll have to refresh me on what we do with a split vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A negative determination means that you're working in an area where there's jurisdiction, but that you're not having any substantial impacts on the resource areas. Here we go. Negative determination. Vote is basically a no vote.
It's a no vote. 2-2 is a no vote.
2 is a no.
2-2 is a no. Okay. Well, then unfortunately, I think that's where we are at the moment, and I don't know what we could do to. Well, that's basically it. So, Mr. Kennard, if you wanted to consider what was said here today, if you want to proceed with your project, obviously the other way to go was with an NOI, and the advantage of an NOI is it can be more precisely conditioned. But anyway, that's the outcome of the vote today.
Chairman Rawls.
Yes.
So I voted negative, as you did, and Tom voted positive. And Karen, I'm not sure whether she voted
wait a minute.
negative or positive.
Right. Karen, did you mean to say that you approve it or don't approve it?
I don't approve it.
Don't approve it.
I
That's
would
what I,
recommend that he do an NOI so that we can put some conditions in.
all right. So it's basically 2 votes for positive RDA and a determination, 2 votes for negative. So it's a tie vote. Which I believe means it's a negative. I mean, it's a positive determination vote of the commission.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Positive, as requires a notice of intent to be filed.
Right, which means the RDA is not approved.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now I'm confused.
Well, yeah, it is a little confusing. A request for determination, a negative vote means that it essentially would be approved. But we've had 2 votes for and 2 votes against. And that does not, and what the result is that the RDA is not approved.
Okay.
But he has recourse.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just going to make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
First, I think someone needs to actually make the motion, then needs to be seconded,
Right.
and then take a formal roll call vote. But if you're against the project, you're voting a positive determination. If you're for the project, you're voting negative determination. That's
right.
basically all there is to it.
Right. Okay. Good point, Paul. So actually, let's have who would like to volunteer today to do the motions, as is our custom.
I'll volunteer, Bob.
Okay, so can I have a motion for a vote on the RDA?
I'd like to make a motion that we vote on the RDA.
All right. How do you and Commissioner Delvecchio, how do you vote?
Negative.
Commissioner Clark? I'm getting confused again.
Yeah,
I'm against. I'm saying that it is within our jurisdiction, so that's a yes vote, I guess.
A positive vote. All right, Commissioner Latin.
I think I'm a positive vote.
I believe you're a positive. I believe
well.
you're a positive vote, and I am a negative. I am a negative vote. So we have two, again 2-2. Sorry, this has taken so long. So formally now we have voted, and it's a positive determination from the commission, which means it's not approved.
What do I have to do to try to get this approved? I really didn't think, I thought we were doing very minimal, approaching into the bank. I understand where we are. I can't, we didn't build that, the house has been here forever. We're just trying to add a deck. It seems pretty, I can't, I don't know if I look around me and I see decks everywhere, and I just don't quite understand what we were doing that's so wrong. But
right.
anyway, leave the tree if you want. I mean, if the tree is an issue, the tree can stay. I guess I would ask that we cut off a couple branches that could fall on the deck, or how could we go about doing this? I understand where we live, and we've lived here forever, for generations.
What I would suggest, Mr.
We
Kennard,
love this area. I just don't.
What I would suggest, I think it's a matter of procedure, and I think what I would suggest is that you have a conversation with the agent, Paul and or Nicole at this point, to try to get a better idea of a possible path forward. There are options for you here, but at this point, your request for an RDA has not been approved. So the recourse would be normally an NOI, and you can talk to the agents about that and what will be involved. Perhaps some other ideas can come out, but right now we've had a vote and it wasn't approved.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So Paul, how about the next item?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next on the agenda is another request for determination of applicability. The 36 Sears Point Road, Patrick Grogan and Patricia J. Black. Proposed removal of the remaining hardwood stakes and cables used as part of the salt marsh restoration in 2015 at same address, Assessors Map 11A, Parcel 10.
Okay, do we have a representative here for this project?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Seth Wilkinson, Wilkinson Ecological Design.
Well, Seth.
Oh,
Yeah, please feel free to tell us the history of this project. I think there is a history of this project, and that none of us currently on the commission are familiar with it.
sure. It goes back to 2015 when there was a salt marsh restoration project installed here. It was in response to unauthorized activities which impacted the marsh negatively by a prior owner, and the resolution was handled primarily through Mass DEP, and we installed a hybrid marsh system which combined direct planting through erosion control blankets of marsh species, as well as some pre-vegetated pillows, which were installed, and some temporary fiber rolls, which were incorporated just to help deflect some of the energy from boat wakes and waves and things like that. The fiber rolls were only in place for about a year, and they were hand removed as things settled in. But what persists there today are some hardwood oak stakes and a limited number of cables. This would essentially be the last proposed activity for this restoration project, simply to hand remove, using hand tools to hand remove the remainder of the stakes and any cables which are above the surface.
Okay. And okay, there's the area of the marsh, the two mitigation areas.
Correct.
All right. And this was largely, as I understand it, handled by the state and the town. The town and the Chatham Commission were not especially involved in the original mitigation project.
That's my understanding. We were primarily a contractor for planting marsh. The Woods Hole group had done the permitting.
Okay. So we'll go around the table again. Commissioner Clark.
Okay, well, again, this is another one of those procedural things, because we're being asked to permit something in the middle of a resource area, which is not desirable. But I was wondering, I'm surprised that there wasn't any language in the order of conditions about closing out the site when you were finished with it. Was that, and fortunately it wasn't this group that was responsible for that, but is there no language in the order of conditions that was issued by the state that dealt with how you finish up the site once all the work is done?
Through the chair, it was, I believe it was a consent order rather than order of conditions, because it came through DEP. Essentially the answer is no. The DEP, ultimately these materials will degrade, and so neighbors and I believe the commission had requested at a prior hearing on a certificate of compliance for the prior owners. There are new owners here just a few weeks ago. That their position was that these will degrade on their own. So, but the new owners are happy to go forward with this request of the commission and the neighbors to remove the materials and accelerate that process. So essentially, we're not really. I don't even see this as an activity, frankly. We're removing materials which aren't needed for the marsh. So it's more of a beach cleanup, I think, than anything else. I don't see this as meeting a definition of an activity under the Wetlands Protection Act, but that's your determination to make today.
What were the cables used for? Were you holding some floats in place while work was being done?
The cables were actually there to hold the marsh pillows in place while they rooted in. Yeah. So they're now well rooted in, and the marsh pillows are breaking down, so the cables are no longer needed.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, given the fact that what we're basically doing is cleaning up the end results of a remedial plan, I would think this would be something the agent could handle.
Mr. Chairman and Tom, thank you. There's a long history here on this. This is how the state wanted this handled with an RDA. The attorneys reached out to DEP. They came back and said that they would like the procedure to be a request for determination of applicability to assess it, sort of clean this project up and end it. They had total and absolute full control over it. The whole thing has been litigated, and this is the final act in sort of closing it out. And as Seth has correctly said, it's kind of a cleaning operation, but it is, our hands are sort of tied, Tom. This is what the state wanted us to do through the RDA. So if you approve this, it's done. Really simple.
Yeah, except that it's in the middle of a resource area. So using an RDA seems to me to be the wrong vehicle. I mean, I want it to happen. I don't know what we do, but an RDA, we're just saying, does the Wetlands Protection Act, or if we wanted to get to Chapter 272 and say, do either of those apply? And I think the answer is unquestionably yes, because it's in the middle of a resource area. But I don't think anybody disagrees that this is something that should be accomplished.
I think, Tom, though, that an RDA can be and is often used to signify that the activity within the resource area is minimal. It isn't that the fact that it's occurring in the resource area is not automatically a deal breaker with an RDA. So it's just a procedural thing. We were asked by the state, evidently, to do it this way, and I'm not sure if we are in position to go back to the state. Well, we prefer a different mechanism.
Well, I don't have any problem allowing this to go forward because it is just cleaning up the end result of a remedial operation.
Okay. Well, let's see how everybody else thinks about it. Commissioner Latin.
I don't have any problem with it going forward. I do have one question because I'm not familiar with something like this. When you remove the stakes, how does that affect what you've done to the area to build up the salt, the area, and now you're removing the stakes, which might disrupt it?
Sure. Through the chair, the stakes are 1 inch by 1 inch maximum dimension, so they are low profile, fortunately, and they were there primarily. Biodegradable twine was wrapped around the stakes and then crisscrossed across these pillows to essentially hold them down, sort of like a seat belt or lashing. The biodegradable twine is long biodegraded now. The wood takes longer, so we're really not. The roots are now holding those that simulated peat. That's essentially what we're trying to do with those pillows, is simulate peat around the perimeter of this, because the peat had been removed from the salt marsh, and these salt marsh species need to grab into something more compact than shifting sands in the intertidal area. That has occurred in the intervening 4 or 5 years. So those roots are well established in that location, and that's what's holding those biodegradable materials in place. Removing those wooden stakes, the sands will just sort of shift in there and fill. We've done this before without any impacts at all to the marsh. I don't see any impacts with this.
Great. Thank you so much for the explanation. I have no problem with it.
All right. Commissioner DeVecchio.
I had a question about removing the stakes, and you mentioned about cutting some if they don't come out by, by digging them out. How far down from the surface will those be cut?
So the duckbill anchors were located about 42 inches down. So then there's a cable that runs up. That's why if we can't hand pull those duckbills, we'd need to cut them. Typically that would be cut about 6 inches below the surface. And this is a steel product, so it is rapidly oxidizing, and it will degrade, just not as quickly as some of the other components. So everything is designed to degrade in this project over time. But getting it down, 6 inches below, this is not a terribly dynamic beach. You shouldn't ever see those cables again, and they'll continue to degrade below the surface.
So it won't be a safety issue in the future if anybody were to walk out there, use the beach in any way?
No, it shouldn't be. No more than any other beach. A 6-inch drop in beach location at this location would be pretty considerable. So I wouldn't expect that to happen. If we dig, it's one of these judgment calls. If we dig deeper than 6 inches, then we could be potentially compromising. This is a restored salt marsh. The deeper your hole goes, the broader it has to get in order to get a shovel down there. And so it's, we feel that's the best balance is around 6 inches.
And the marsh has come back pretty well.
Yes, it has. It's dormant now, but this summer you'll see it coming back. That was a question that DEP was asked before they sent their resolution, and they determined that it had.
Yeah. Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay. And I think I don't have any further questions. It seems like a minimal intrusion. It seems like a necessary end to the project. It seems like the project was successful. It needs to be done. So would be in favor of a negative determination on this as well. So without any further questions, does anybody have a motion on this?
I'd like to make a motion that we vote on this RDA.
So the motion, I guess, would be a negative determination.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Clark, second.
All right. So Commissioner Clark, how do you vote?
Oh God, here we go again.
If you're in favor of it, it would be a negative. If you're not in favor, it would be a positive.
Negative, then.
Okay. Commissioner Latin.
I have to remember we're standing on our heads with this one.
Exactly.
Negative as well.
All right. Commissioner DeVecchio.
Negative.
And negative for me as well. So that's a unanimous negative determination.
Just
hey,
a point
Bob,
of order.
can I make an observation?
Sure.
I've been on the commission for a little over a year, and it's only been very recently that we've started seeing a lot of RDAs. I think some people are getting happy feet about using RDAs as some kind of shortcut. And I think what we see with these two applications is that it's not a simple tool. And matter of fact, it can be very complicated and has its own shortcomings. And so I don't know how we make it known, but the sudden obsession with using RDAs, I think is poorly considered because of its shortcomings as a legal vehicle. So I just want to mention that so that people know that this is not a simple solution to a complex problem.
Yeah, I would agree in some part that there's a tendency to gravitate to an RDA for perhaps more complicated projects, but this has actually come up before. It'll continue to come up. I do think I agree with you. It's something we need to discuss as a commission, how we might want to approach that.
Mr. Chairman, could I just clarify that was 4 affirmative votes for a negative determination, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure on that. Thank you.
You're good to go.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now we move on to notices of intent. First one on the agenda today is 50 Horseshoe Lane. The applicants are Larry Palmerton. We don't have an SE number yet. I'll check on that a little later. Proposed land management and landscaping improvements at 50 Horseshoe Lane, assessors map 10D, parcel S7A.
All right, who do we have representing on this project?
Good morning. This is Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design here on behalf of the Palmerton family. And I'm also here with Thad Eldridge from East Southeast. And I believe he is on but muted.
Okay.
Is that a hit to Tad?
Thad? Okay, well, we seem to be having all sorts of issues this morning. So I will walk through the project in our portion of it, and then hopefully Thad could join us if that's okay with you, Mr.
That sounds fine.
Okay, so this is a single family dwelling. Let me pull up my existing conditions. This is a single family dwelling located on Oyster River, directly across from Stetson Cove. We have two coastal banks that are delineated on this property. The first coastal bank borders the Oyster River Inlet.
I'm sorry, can you? Oh, Paul's going to share. Okay, that's
my apologies. Yep.
Someone.
No, Teresa, go right ahead.
Okay.
We're already there. Thank you.
So we've got the coastal bank located on the south side of the lot, bordering the Oyster River Inlet on the south side of the lot. And the second coastal bank follows the floodplain, which is just a short distance to the northeast of the existing house. The north side of the property is wooded, containing species typical of a coastal woodland plant community, including maples, viburnums. The property slopes upward towards the house from the street, so it's quite a steep slope from the street up towards the house. The wooded area extends along the western property line to the top of the bank. The understory throughout the entire lot has been almost entirely taken over by invasive English ivy, as well as other invasive vegetation, including shrub honeysuckle and aggressive but native greenbrier. The southeast side of the property and the vegetation along the southern coastal bank mimics a maritime shrubland plant community. There is native vegetation, including winterberry holly, some scrub oak, and staghorn sumac. But like the rest of the property has been invaded with the English ivy and shrub and vine honeysuckle. There has been some previous cutting done along the coastal bank to maintain views to the water. And of course, that cutting has caused further disturbance. So basically, we've got a single family dwelling with a driveway, an existing stone parking area just to the east of the house. On the south side of the house, we have a deck, bulkhead, garage entrance, and outdoor shower. There's a timber wall running the length of the top of the slope just to the south of the dwelling that allows for access and circulation from east to west across the backside. There is an existing set of timber stairs on the bank itself that are in poor condition. They're degraded, and we are proposing to rebuild in place and in kind. If we go to the landscape plan dated March 8th by Blue Flax Design, we'll see, Paul, if that's possible. Great, thank you. You'll see that we're proposing a few improvements in the area. Just to the north of the house, there are two doorways entering the house, and there's currently a walkway only leading to the front door. This is within the 100-foot buffer zone. We are proposing to extend that walkway, so rebuild and extend that walkway to allow access to both doors into the front of the dwelling. So the main door is just to the west of the dwelling, and then there's a mudroom entrance on the east side. So we're proposing to extend that walkway to allow for easier access and circulation into the dwelling on the north side of the house. On the south side of the house, the property owners, the Palmertons are new property owners. They're proposing to install a hot tub, shift the existing rinse station to the east, and then provide a just a bluestone stepping walkway to allow them to get from the outdoor shower to the spa and up onto the deck and then down into the bulkhead. This area is currently almost entirely filled with gravel, so it's really just transferring and allowing for ease of access and circulation, and then removing the gravel and planting a fescue lawn in the areas that are currently gravel right around the south side of the house running from east to west. There is an existing timber wall to the west of the staircase that is in poor condition. It's rotting and degraded, and we are proposing to replace that timber wall, so repair and replace that timber wall, as well as to extend that timber wall to the east to allow for, again, just easier access and circulation. On the east side, there we go, thank you. On the east side of the dwelling, we've got, there's gravel area and then invasive English ivy at the top of the slopes, right, exactly in that area that Paul's pointing out. So we would be removing that English ivy, doing some minor regrading, and then extending that wall and planting that area with a fescue lawn. On the area just to the east of the dwelling, there's a existing gravel parking area. We're proposing to remove that gravel and put supported grass, a grass pave in that area. So turf lawn on a plastic grid, that would be a fescue lawn. And that's just for occasional parking where the family will be storing a small boat in the off season. To mitigate for the proposed hot tub and the stepping stones in the lawn area and the extension of the walkway in the front, we're proposing 4,988 square feet of invasive species on and around the coastal bank. You can see here shaded in darker green or bluish green on our plan. We're proposing to remove invasive vegetation and restore native vegetation in that area. So we're looking at replanting 8 native trees and over 200 ferns, shrubs, perennials, and grasses in this area. The trees will mainly be located along the eastern-western property lines. And then the existing native vegetation that's on the bank, including the alder and the winterberry holly, will be left intact with only some regenerative pruning just to help restore the health of the vegetation after we remove the invasive vines. There are 2 existing pitch pines just to the west of the house that are in very poor condition. They're degraded, they are close to the house, and we're proposing to remove those because we do consider those to be hazard trees. On the coastal bank itself, there are a couple of previously cut oaks that are just completely degraded, are in very poor condition, and we are proposing to just flush cut those and plant native shrubs that will be allowed to reach mature fruiting size without any further or future disturbance for maintenance of views. There are existing oak trees, as you can see pointed out here, to remain, and then we're showing the areas of existing native vegetation, and all of the rest of the bank will be planted with native vegetation around that, including a mix of black chokeberry, summer sweet, inkberry holly, winterberry holly, mountain laurel, fragrant sumac, viburnum, and then down towards the edge of the salt marsh, eastern baccharis. So I believe I've covered that, probably not as well as Thad would as far as the other elements of it, but I'm happy to answer any questions about the proposed project.
Could I just ask, can you hear me now?
There he is.
Oh, there you are, Thad.
My
Hooray.
phone changed the microphone array, but no, Teresa did a great job with my end of it, and I'm here for questions as well.
Okay. I guess maybe it's my turn to start. So I guess I had a little trouble. Sometimes I have trouble, Thad, with following your coverage tables, but essentially, it looks to me like essentially you're increasing the amount of coverage by a small amount. You're taking out a lot of what I think is pervious hardscape and replacing with more pervious hardscape. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, so we currently have a stone driveway that's to the side that's being replaced with the grass pave So that decreases our pervious hardscape, even though it's still a used area. In the back, there's more lawn going in where there's currently pea stone, and it's hopefully an upgrade with everything.
Right. So the net increase in impervious coverage is what, if any?
40 square feet of
Oh,
impervious.
Impervious. Okay, that is total within the 0 to 100.
Correct. Yes. Within the inner aura, it would be an increase of 80, and within the outer, it's a decrease of 40.
Okay. And so we have as mitigation certainly a more than adequate amount for that increase in coverage. Okay, fine. I just want to be sure I understood it. So I do have a question about the area on the driveway side of the house where in the landscape plan, Teresa, you have it color coded.
Yes.
You have a sort of well, you have two shades of green,
Mhm.
and the invasive species is a dark green, and then on the other side of the driveway is a different shade of green. Typical landscape.
Right, exactly. So what's existing there is a mix of non-invasive but exotic. So this is right bordering the edge of the circle at the end of this road. And so what the property owners would like to do is just maintain more of a landscape. So where all other restored areas are allowed to naturalize in perpetuity, this area would be proposed to be maintained because it's along the edge of the road. Will need continued maintenance. There'll always be disturbance, excuse me, from plowing and other activities in the roadway. And so they would just like to be able to maintain this regularly. So we're calling it a typical landscaped area versus a area that's going to be restored and allowed to naturalize in perpetuity.
Okay, so that's sort of outside of the scope of mitigation.
Exactly, that's outside of the scope of mitigation. We're not calling that mitigation. We're basically just looking at that as removing the invasive vegetation and then restoring that to a landscaped, manageable landscaped area so that the property owners between the driveway and the roadway layout can maintain that portion of the property regularly just to keep it invasive free and for lack of a better term, clean. And then to the western side, where that's all going to be restored, that will be allowed to be restored in perpetuity to native vegetation.
Right. Are you in the typical landscape side of the driveway? Are you adding plants?
We are adding plants, mainly native species. So panicle hydrangea would probably be the hydrangea paniculata would be the only one species that we're proposing to put in there that's not native to the Northeast.
Okay. So anything you add there would be native.
Exactly.
Okay. And on the other side of the driveway, there's a lot of English ivy there, and which is on the neighboring property as well. So I assume you'll be taking the ivy off the trees. But any thoughts on how you keep the ivy from coming in from the neighboring property after you do the cleanup and restoration?
So in the northern portion of the lot, you can see we've left sort of an open area. So once we remove all of the ivy, that area will be seeded with the native grass and wildflower mix that we proposed. And then we're going to basically keep a little bit of a space here and a buffer that will allow us or the property owners to go in over time and just keep that ivy out of there so that it doesn't end up climbing back over the shrubs and trees that we're proposing to replant. As we get just to the west of the dwelling, of course, the property line is a little tighter over there. We don't have quite as much room. The property owners desire some screening on that side of the lot for obvious reasons. So we are proposing to plant some American hollies once those pitch pines are removed. And it's just going to have to be, once we remove the invasive English ivy, it's going to have to be careful monitoring and removal is going to be ongoing until the property to the west takes on an invasive plant management program.
Okay. Good. So you mentioned some flush cutting. Would those flush cut trees regrow? You expect them to regrow?
They'll be cut. They're in very poor condition. They're severely degraded. We will not be treating them. We'll be flush cutting them. So if they regrow, that is certainly a positive. They may not, just because they're in such poor shape.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're planting the additional vegetation around the stairs. So when the stairs are rebuilt, we will plant the additional woody vegetation around the stairs as proposed.
So you're not counting on any regrowth as part of your mitigation?
Not on those particular oaks, only because they're just in such poor condition at this point. Obviously, the existing native shrubs that will remain will be cut and pruned as necessary. So only if necessary, meaning that they've been damaged by invasive vines. Otherwise, they'll be allowed to remain intact.
Okay. All right. I think that's what I wanted to know. I'll just pass it over to Bob.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Fab.
Hello.
First of all, the stairs will be replaced. I noticed pea stone in those stairs. Is that going to be changed to 3/4 inch?
If that's more desirable, we can certainly change it out. The proposal was to just replace in kind.
Yeah, that the pea stone tends to migrate down the slope. So 3/4 inch, I think, is what we have in our general conditions anyway when we have steps like that.
I agree, Bob. I agree with you. I think 3/4 inches is more appropriate for this application than the pea stone. Yes, for that reason exactly.
Okay, and the other thing was the new lawn, or the lawn itself in the 0 to 50. That's not going to be irrigated, is it?
Only to get it established. So we're going to do the fescue lawn mix and would be irrigated just to get it established, and then it will be on its own after that.
Okay, and that's behind the house.
It is. It's basically replacing pea stone.
Yes. And is that the existing lawn in the 0 to 50, in the back of the house and the side of the house there, is that irrigated now, or is it not?
I am not sure. You mean on the street side of the house?
No, I mean on the south side of the house and on the west side of the house.
Don't believe there's any irrigation at all on the south side of the house, but I am not sure on the north side of the house if that lawn is irrigated. I will have to check with the property owners on that.
Yeah, okay. So we wouldn't want any permanent irrigation in the on the south side anyway, in the west side.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking maybe if they want to continue it on the the front of the house on the north side of the house, that would be okay in my eye.
Okay.
Other than that, there's some English ivy on the south side of the bank, the back of the house. So that's going to be all removed and replanted.
Correct.
Where the new wall is going in.
Yes, that's correct. All that English ivy will be removed. Yes.
Okay, good. That's a good thing. Those are the only items I had. Is it possible to put a note on the plan that it's the fescue lawn will not be irrigated, like a non-irrigated lawn?
Yes, we can definitely add that.
Okay. Other than that, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Latin?
My questions were just answered with what Bob asked, so I'm all set.
Okay. Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, I have a question, 2 questions actually. In terms of the English ivy, I know the National Park Service recommends triclophor because it gets down into the roots so that they don't regrow. I was wondering what technique you would be using to try and control the ivy.
So when we do use herbicide, we use a triclopyr as the active ingredient, and hand pulling is also, so in this case, at the upper portions of the bank, we'll be in there with a small walk behind skid steer with a root rake. And that's a really effective way. One of the challenges with managing English ivy with herbicide is it has a very thick, waxy coating. And so surfactant is really important to help break down that coating to allow the active ingredient to get down and translocate into the root system. But when we're in wetland resource areas, we're using a very mild surfactant because, frankly, it's the surfactant that causes the most damage to aquatic plants and animals. So here, where possible, we will use mechanical removal. In areas where we are not able to get equipment down to remove mechanically, or it's too difficult to access with by hand, literally physically getting down there and hand raking, we will treat it selectively with a triclopyr-based herbicide, but it will take several rounds of treatment to break that down and have effect.
Yeah, that's been my experience also, that it takes 3 or 4 tries to finally wipe it out. I had one question about the staircase going down the back. The timbers clearly are rotted. I mean, oh my goodness, they're in such wretched shape. What concerned me was that the bottom of the staircase is going into a salt marsh, and at least to my unexpert eye, I'm looking at your plan and you have marked off edge of salt marsh. Given how flat because I saw it at low tide, given how flat the marsh area was, it looked, again, to my untrained eye, that certainly at high tide, the tide would come in considerably closer to the bank than what is shown on your plan. Am I missing something in terms of how far the water gets carried in there? Because my concern was that the staircase almost appears to go into the actual salt marsh, not just the land area, but would actually end up being in the water, and I was concerned about that.
It would only be in the water at extreme high tide events. But the bottom of those stairs is above elevation 4. The mean high water out here is 152.
Okay. Because it looked pretty flat. So I didn't see anything that would prevent it. I understand what you're saying, that I didn't see anything that would prevent it from going up to the base of the bank, for lack of a better descriptor.
But you will note that there's plenty of high tide bush on the downhill side of the stairs, which that likes to grow just above high tide.
Okay. Because usually when because it looks, again, because it was at low tide and I could see everything, it looked to me like there were salt marsh plants going right up to the base of the bank. Am I misinterpreting what I was seeing?
No, there is high tide bushes, as Tad, the Baccharis helmfolia, as Thad pointed out. So there was some discussion with the property owners about abandoning this staircase and restoring, and we did have some discussion with them on that. But frankly, I think they decided that they just want to be able to have some access through their property. And so therefore, that was just the goal, was just to rebuild the staircase in kind. So in place, in kind, just get rid of the rotting timbers, put in the new timbers, and then leave it at that. They have no plans that I'm aware of as far as regular use of this stairway. I think they just want to be able to have access. And for our purposes, frankly, it will allow us to have access to the bank to do the management work that we're proposing.
Right. Yeah, I noticed thank goodness, they put their kayaks on the side of the house rather than.
That's
like
correct.
With a lot of sites where they actually are putting the kayaks much closer and down to the whatever the water body is that the property is adjacent to. So I thought that was a great step forward. All right, I'm still concerned about how far the stairs are intruding into what appears to me to be the salt marsh. But anyway, that's my only concern with this project. Thank you.
Would you be happy if we added a condition that the stairs rebuilt will verify and will keep them above extreme high water or mean higher high water?
That'd be fabulous. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we'll make a note of that. All right, so if I got everybody, I did have one follow-up question, and I guess this is more of a general request on landscaping plans. Very often, Teresa, not just yours, but others as well, lawns are identified or labeled in a way where it's difficult for us to figure out whether or not there is non-native lawn there or whether there is fescue / native lawn. Would it be possible, just putting this out there as a future request, and if you're modifying this particular plan, you could do it here as well, which is to native lawns that way, a non-native lawn, native lawn.
So you, just more clearly, because we do have we have a call out box, but maybe thinking a different shade or a different texture or hatch pattern.
Something would make it really clear. Because
Okay.
I think very often I and others have questions about, well, what is the nature of that lawn there? What is the nature of that lawn there? And
Yep.
it would just make it easier for everybody.
Sure, absolutely.
And quite honestly, I'm beginning to think that the term typical landscape, we need to flip the paradigm on that. And, the typical landscape is code for non-native. And it would be delightful if we could just start saying, landscape, and anything that's not landscape is non-native. But anyway,
Right.
That's just also sort of an aside. Okay, good. So we have a few changes, but a few changes that we've talked about, which seem to be somewhat minor in nature. So do we have any other questions from anyone? And if not, do we have a motion I guess we want to, I think the changes could be the type where we could move to a work session and have revised plans submitted in advance of that.
That wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, not a problem for us either.
Right. So do I have a motion to continue this to the April 7th work session?
I make a motion to continue this to the work session on April 7th for an order of conditions.
Do I have a second?
Clark, second.
All right. Let's have a vote. Commissioner DeVecchio.
Aye.
Commissioner Clark.
Clark, aye.
Commissioner Latin.
Aye.
And I vote aye, so that's unanimous to continue to the April 7th work session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So moving on, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next on the agenda is notice of intent, 517 Stony Hill Road, Catherine Gledhill Earls and Michael Earls, no SE number yet. Proposed raising of an existing house, construction of a new dwelling, pool house, construction of a new septic system, implementation of a land management plan at the same address, assessors map 15-1, parcel 21.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Bill Riley on behalf of Kate and Michael Earls. The team is Thad Eldridge, Jen Crawford, and Susan Sangiolo is our landscape architect. It's pretty straightforward. If you've been to the property, the structure that's there is hasn't been used in any significant way for many years, deteriorating, and it certainly is not appropriate for the neighborhood or usable by a family. So the Earls want to remove that building, construct a new home with a pool and a pool house. What I like is to have Thad run through things, and then we have Jen Crawford for the land management plan, and then Susan Sangiolo is available for questions on landscape architect.
Good morning, Thad Eldridge, East Southeast. The subject property is adjacent to an old cranberry bog. Part of that is bordering land subject to flooding. The other part is actual BVW that was delineated recently. The site itself is overwhelmed with Japanese knotweed and a few other invasives, but the knotweed is pretty substantial here. As Bill mentioned, we have an existing dwelling. It's located less than 50 feet from the BVW. And the proposal is to take down that dwelling and reconstruct the site, keeping as much out of the 50 as possible. All the structures are being proposed outside of the 50-foot. There's a little bit of lawn that will remain within the 50. And as Bill mentioned, we have proposed driveway, house, septic system that's located outside the 100-foot, leading over to a proposed pool with a pool house. And for mitigation, we have Jen Crawford.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Excellent. So for the record, Jen Crawford representing the applicant. So as Thad said, basically the portion of the property that is naturalized is inundated with various species of invasive in nature, so to speak. There are some native trees that are present. There's a couple of pitch pine, a couple eastern red cedar, a few oak off to the east side. But the majority of the trees that you see on the property are actually off the property line. And I think the land management plan that I submitted kind of shows where those are and shows that they're just off property. So in summary, I guess the way that we're hoping to redevelop this property is with the removal of the structures that are within the 0 to 50 and the development really happening outside that no disturb zone, completely outside that no disturb zone. The area to the right behind where the proposed pool house and the proposed pool are going.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you just for a minute?
Yeah.
I need to take a break for a minute. So
Sure.
I would like to suggest we take about a hopefully 5-minute break. And I'm sorry, my apologies, but
No
like
worries.
to do that. So can we get,
Bob, you're not the only,
pardon?
Bob, you're not the only guy here, so great to take a break.
Yeah, okay. So can we stop the recording for a moment, and I'll be back in, let's say, 7 minutes.
We'll just keep it recording,
Okay.
and then yeah, when you come back, Bob, just let me know, and then I'll
All right.
count you in to go live again.
Okay, thanks.
1.
All right, so I'm going to just recap where I started with the land management work. So as Thad had said, with the redevelopment of the project, we are keeping everything outside of that no disturb zone. And in the area within the no disturb zone on that northeast corner of the property where there is a lawn area as well as the existing building going into that zone, we are going to be revegetating that area as our mitigation piece, so that in essence, when the project is completed, you will have almost an entirely naturally vegetated no disturb zone with very little exception. In addition to that restoration work, the owners of this property have recognized that there is an abundance of invasive species within that no disturb zone, as well as along the BVW and the property line to the north. So they have also proposed to do some voluntary restoration to make that entire no disturb zone something that I think is undoubtedly and unquestionably a net benefit to the entire property, and this project will attain that, I think. I have everything documented on the plan and notes in terms of, and in the land management plan in terms of timelines and how we would deal with those different areas. But I'm more than happy to answer any more detailed questions you may have about, the protocol and the procedures that we would be using in order to restore this parcel.
All right. Anything else in terms of presentation on this before we go to questions? Sounds like not. So let's go with Commissioner Del Vecchio.
I noticed the bittersweet on the pines to the north. That's all going to be removed.
That is correct. Anything that is at least on the property that we can get to in order to cut the vines at the base, yes, absolutely.
Okay, and there's a black locust where the new building's going to be constructed. That's obviously going to be removed, correct?
Correct.
And are there any more black locust trees about?
I did not observe any more black locust within the restoration areas along the northern edge of the property. I do believe that towards the street side of the property, there are some black locust seedlings that were coming up in those areas, but those would be removed as a result of just needing to have that area for construction.
Yeah, that was my concern. Okay.
Yep.
And is there a cesspool currently?
That would be a question for Thad.
Yeah.
Yes, we believe that there is a cesspool currently that would be removed in accordance with the Board of Health provisions.
Well, that's a good thing. So we're going to put a new septic system in. So that's Title V septic. So that's a plus. I think those are the only questions I had right now. I think this would be an improvement overall as to what's there today, especially with all the invasives removed and the new plantings going in. I think that's all I had right now. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Latin.
While the driveway, most of it is outside of the 150 area, is there any consideration to not putting asphalt, even though most of it is not within the 100, some of it is, and having something that is more pervious?
So we are looking at a 12% slope for this driveway. It's pretty steep.
Okay.
There was discussion about putting in the pavers, and it really comes down to a question, how much can really be absorbed? Now, this is directed away from the wetland, and we are containing it within a leach pit.
Okay.
And it was determined that this would be the best route for this property. I can say the parking area, that's to be pervious.
That's good. All right, and also, within the 50 and 100 area where there's grass, is there irrigation? And what kind of grass?
Those areas for the areas directly around the house to allow the homeowners to circulate around the house for maintenance and other purposes. Those areas would be either seeded or sodded with an all fescue mix. So it would be very low water requirement, initially very drought tolerant, and totally appropriate for the right way to provide a lawn area in sensitive zones.
Right, and will there be irrigation?
It would be nice to provide irrigation since there is very little lawn area on this property, and the only area that is, in that no disturb zone is a very, very small strip for their ability to get around the house. So it would be great if we could provide some irrigation in those areas. And we'll need a temporary system for everything for the restoration work in the back anyway. So we'll need water back there on a temporary basis for the restoration work.
And so after the restoration work takes root, that irrigation would stop being used.
Yes, the irrigation in the restoration areas will not be necessary beyond 2 to 3 growing seasons once those shrub and tree materials have established. That is absolutely correct in the restoration areas, yes.
All right, those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Clark.
I didn't have any questions, but I did have one observation, and I've mentioned this several times to Tad, and I'm going to mention it one more. I noticed on the table where you do your calculations of mitigation and so on, that you've gotten in the habit in the last couple of months of giving yourself double credit when you move out of the NDZ or out of the ORA. There's nothing in the regulations that permits you to do that. I think as a policy matter, it's a good idea. Although I'm not sure I would double it, but I think anytime you take take improvements out of the NDZ and even out of the outer ORA, I think that definitely is something that should be credited. But there's a doubling of credit when I don't think there's anything in the regs. It shouldn't be done. And now you can tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, I can say that it's not been a couple of months that I've been doing this. It's been for 16 years since the bylaw and the regulations were adopted. And that's carried on with the different mitigation guidelines that have been adopted by the commission. The last, I think, was revised in 2009, where we gained the 2-to-1 and 1-to-1. I've reviewed other filings and everybody does the same. And if you want to encourage people to get out, you should encourage it. Not giving credit where credit is due only encourages people to maintain within the no disturb zone where they can.
Well, I have a proposal that would allow that to happen, but again, I disagree with your interpretation of what the regs allow.
Okay.
That's all. I think it's a good thing. That's what I'm saying. I'm in favor of it as a matter of policy. I just don't think it's supported by the regs. And the regs in terms of the 2-to-1 and so on, that deals with mitigation. There's nothing about going backwards. Unfortunately, I think that was an oversight that needs to be corrected.
I look forward to reading it.
I'm sure you do. All right. Thank you.
Okay, that's all for you, Tom. All right.
Yeah.
So I guess my impression of this proposal when I first looked at it was that I was a little taken aback by the scope of the house, but not the house, but of the pool and the surrounding patio and the pool house. which really takes as much of a footprint as the house does itself. And I guess and one upshot of all this, the outer R is basically being taken up by dwelling and hardscape to the point where it looks like the applicant wants walking path in the NDZ behind the house and behind the patio pool house. First of all, I want to make sure that I understood the landscape plan showing that. Is my understanding correct on that?
Bob, I think it's important that the homeowners are able to traverse all the way around the property, and that the area is very narrow. It's only a few feet wide, but I think that for maintenance purposes, it's important that they be able to access all those areas without having to go through naturalized areas in order to do that. And on top of that, I think the ability of the project to provide basically an almost entirely vegetated no disturb zone, as well as additional restoration for the invasives along the BVW. I think no matter what, this project is a net benefit.
Bob, this is Bill Riley. I think the on a sort of a practical level, homeowners are going to walk around the house, and so better to keep them in a narrow path and let them wander around and trample down naturalized areas. That'd be my thought.
Oh, I agree with you. I guess the point of my question, though, is I agree that applicants need the right must be able to walk around their property, the circumference of the property, no question about it. What I'm getting at, I guess, is that if the scale of particularly the pool, patio, and pool house were reduced, or if there was some retreat, further retreat from the NDZ, that you could still have that walking path, and you would not have the walking path in the NDZ. And my question is whether that is something that, in your view, either is or isn't feasible.
Bob,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jen, you go.
I was going to say, I think that given that this property is wider than it is long, so to speak, and that we're backed up by that BVW on the end side, I think that, from a homeowner standpoint, having use areas, close to Stony Hill Road or closer to Stony Hill Road, I think is kind of undesirable. And I know that that's not necessarily within, I know that's not what this commission, what your concern is, so to speak. But I also think that with the proposal that's in front of you, I think that we've provided the mitigating measures in addition to the additional restoration measures in order to support the site plan that's in front of you. So I understand exactly what you're saying and exactly what you're asking, but at the same time, I think that this applicant has taken the appropriate steps in order to provide to you a net benefit for what they are asking for, respectfully.
And if I may, a walking path is permitted within the NDZ.
This is Susan Sanjola, landscape architect.
Okay, Susan.
I also, it's not really showing up on the mitigation plan, but we also have the setbacks to conform to, and so you really can't push the pool house or even the house that much closer to Stony Hill Road because of the front setback.
Okay. Well, the other option would be some shrinkage, let's say, of the patio, and is what I was thinking. It's just, not designing the project, but just whenever I look at it, that is the thing that occurs to me. So anyway, I want to say something about with that. Say yes, walking paths are permitted in the NDZ, but typically we have that when the applicant wants to walk down to the water. It's adjacent to the property. So walking paths through the NDZ in this particular case is, I think, of a different matter to some degree.
Bob, this is Bill Riley. So the looking at the plan that's currently up there, the walking path you're principally concerned with is the one between the house and the pool and patio.
I'm concerned with any lawn in the NDZ is what I'm concerned with.
Well, all right. So with regard to the path between, between the house and the pool and patio, I'll be happy to speak with the property owners and see how they feel about, shifting it so that would move outside the 50. I think the lawn on the north side of the house is sort of the minimal amount. I mean, we want to protect 0 to 50, but we have to give people a little bit of space outside as well.
And I think it's also worth noting that the areas on the north side of the house, the walking path around and directly behind the house, most of that is already either lawn or developed area or driveway. No native vegetation or really vegetation at all is being impacted by transitioning those areas to to an area that's in use. So I think in terms of that, there's not really a change in use at all.
No, I agree. It's essentially a disturbed lot.
Correct.
However, whenever we have a large-scale redevelopment like this, to me, that is an opportunity to make things as much as possible right, as it were. Sort of make up for the sins of the past by the previous development. So, Bill, if you would be willing to talk to your client about anything they can do with regard to keeping lawn out of the NDZ, I'd be very happy with that.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that right after the meeting, Bob.
Okay. All right. So I'm trying to, do I have any other questions? I think that was really my main concern. We really we're consuming essentially the 50 to 100 with development here. I understand that we're mitigating most of the NDZ, but given the configuration of the hardscape and dwelling, I still would like to see some consideration given to what I was talking about. So can we continue this then to, well, when should we continue this to? The next session, the next hearing is April 14th. I don't know if that's an issue for you, Bill.
Well, I think let me suggest this. Why don't we suspend this for a while?
Suspend.
Well, we have to wait for a DEP file number, but I think if the only, if the remaining sort of question, so to speak, is about, the lawn path that, dips into the no disturb zone, I think that's something that the team can probably come to a resolution on fairly quickly.
Right, Jen, I think, but Bob was also talking about the dreaded word among men, shrinkage. So, so for those who have watched Seinfeld, anyway. So what I'd like to do is suspend for a while. I happen to be on the next hearing as well. After that hearing is complete, I'd consult with my clients.
I understand, but Bill.
And then we could come back, once I'd call in and I'll let Paul know we're back available again. And because and then perhaps we could just continue to the work session rather than losing a whole month here. That's all.
Right. You're just asking to table this for a little bit.
Well, yeah, you have to continue to a date certain, but yeah, you can do that.
Oh, no, it would be table it for
by the end of the meeting.
before the end of the meeting.
Oh, by the end of the meeting. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
No. So, so I'll talk to Kate and Mike Earls, and we'll check a response to directly to Bob's concerns, because they're, as Jen pointed out, if we can address it simply, perhaps we could continue to the work session. If it becomes more complex, well, we'll just have to continue it to the 14th. But we'd love to try to save that, that additional month.
Right.
With the next
Okay,
work
so
session.
you will then, whenever toward the end of the session, just speak up, tell us where you are with all that, and we'll proceed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I'll do is when you finish one, I'll break in and let you know if we want to go again today or just give it up.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you very much, Bob.
Right. Certainly. Thank you. So we don't need to vote on this. We're just going to move on, I guess, at this point to the next one, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next on the agenda is another notice of intent, 73 Kent Road, Philip Chu and Jessica Koo, SE 103480, proposed demolition of an existing dwelling, swimming pool, construction of a new dwelling and swimming pool, same address, assessors map 12J, parcel G4. Revised plans have been received.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Bill Riley on behalf of Philip Chu and Jessica Gual. The team for this is Dave Clark and Teresa Sprague. And David done some modifications to the plan, so I'll ask Dave to take over now.
Yes, good morning, David Clark, Clark Engineering. Trying to see where I can put the plan up on the screen, but I don't see any link to do that. But anyways.
Do you want to display the site plan?
There it is.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Drop down one more. Oh, there you go. Good.
Yeah, the only modifications to the site plan were at the request of the commission was to label the patio as dry laid, and although it's barely visible, that note was added. And the disposition of the retaining walls that are down the slope, we added a note that they will be removed. So those are the only changes to the site plan.
Yeah, I think the after Teresa's presentation, if you want to put Teresa's plan up, I think my memory is that the commission felt that that was adequate mitigation and restoration, and that perhaps if there are no further questions, we can continue to the work session. It might be helpful to put there you go. All right. So if you have any questions of Teresa, she's available too.
Yes, good morning again, Teresa Sprague, Blue Flax Design. Our revisions were simply, there was some discrepancies in our plan notes and the count in the planting schedule. So we've gone through and made sure that all of those numbers match. And in addition to that, we put a note on our plan regarding the fact that any lawn would be a native fescue lawn within jurisdictional areas.
Right. And my notes also show that Dave was going to add the retaining walls to the site plan, which I think he did.
The retaining walls to be removed.
Yes, right. And yeah, I saw, Teresa, that you normalized the count of shrubs and trees and plants and so forth.
Correct, yes.
Right. So,
and I also want to make the commission aware is that we did add the additional tree that was removed under the RDA for the septic system.
good. All right.
Just to let you know.
Yes, there is a note for that on the site, on the planting plan.
Right. I think that those are all the things that we asked for. So I'll just throw it open quickly to commissioners if they have anything else that they recall we asked for or have any further questions. Just anybody.
I have a question, Bob.
Okay.
The lawn areas within the 50, within the 0 to 50, will those be irrigated or not?
I'm sorry, no, none of the fescue lawn will be irrigated within the 0 to 15-foot buffer. No, it will be temporary irrigation only to get everything established for the first couple of growing seasons.
Okay, and is that specified in the management plan or the plan notes?
We specify in the plan notes always, and this is a note that's a sort of a note that's on all of our plans, that temporary irrigation will be provided for the first 2 to 3 growing seasons while plants established. Once plants are established, irrigation will be removed.
Yeah. All right. Other than that, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm good.
All right. All right. So hearing nothing, do I have a motion to move this to the April 7th work session?
I make a motion that we move this to the April 7th work session for an order of condition.
Clark, second.
All right, we'll take a vote. Bob?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So that is scheduled for the April 7th work session.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
This is Mary.
Oh,
I
hi,
just
Mary.
wanted to call attention to the possibility that Mr. Riley is going to continue the previous hearing till April 7th. The April 7th meeting is very long, and to continue a hearing to that date may put that agenda to be.
I see what you mean, Mary. That is a good point.
No, but no, we're not we wouldn't continue the hearing. If it goes to the work session, it would be for the order conditions, not to, if we continue the hearing, it'll go to the 14th.
Okay, well, we'll find out when you come back today whether or not what you're proposing would allow us to go to the work session, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. But I appreciate your concern, Mary.
Thanks, Bill. Don't say it if you don't mean it.
Hey, Mary, what is your last day?
April 1st.
We love you, Mary.
I didn't plan on announcing it, Bill, on TV.
Well, but everybody gets to send you flowers and thank you notes and show all the appreciation for all your years of faithful work.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
I'm going to be muted now.
Okay. Yeah, me too. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So next up, Paul, next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next on the agenda is notice of intent for 118 Sears Road. 118 Sears Road Realty Trust. Cecilia Clancy is the trustee. SE 103475. Proposed construction of a garage addition, relocation of a driveway, mitigation plantings within a coastal bank at same address, assessors map 11A, parcel B. Revised plans have been received. I'll put those up.
Good morning again, David Clark, Clark Engineering. This was continued because we were proposing an alternate driveway. I believe the first time around the commission didn't really have too many issues with the project. So the revised plan shows the turning area from the driveway flipped from the south side or the southwest side of the driveway to the northeast side of the driveway. So the new driveway is completely out of the no disturb zone, and Phil Cheney's revised his restoration plan to include more native plantings in the area of the existing driveway that's going to be removed. So that's basically it.
And that is what my notes show is we were waiting on. And also we were waiting on ZBA. Has that now been
I believe
concluded?
ZBA has approved it.
They've approved it. Okay. Any other questions or comments from anyone? All right. Hearing none, I think this is another one where we can, if we can have a motion to continue to the April 7th work session for this project.
I make a motion to continue this to the April 7th work session for an order of conditions.
You have a second.
Clark, second.
Let's have a roll call vote. Commissioner DeVecchio,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Latin.
Aye.
I voted aye. So we will see you, or we will take this matter up for your conditions on April 7th.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, is 9 Chat Harbor Lane, notice of intent, applicant Deborah B. Charbot, Revocable Trust, 2012, owner Timothy and Deborah Charbot, trustee applicants, SE 103470. Proposed removal of invasive plant species at same address, assessors map 5B. Revised plans have been received, and I will put those up.
David Clark again on behalf of the Charlebois. We continued this for a planting plan. We received a planting list from Tim Kent, the landscape contractor, and we've added those plantings to our site plan. Basically, it's a mix of shrubs. Although no trees are coming out, we are proposing some cedars over to the north end of the restoration area, more as a screen to the neighbor. I think that's what the commissioner was looking for, and be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have, are you by yourself, David?
I believe the Charlebois are online.
Oh, okay.
But
I was just wondering about Timothy if he's here.
I don't see him popping up, but okay. I did provide a revised narrative from Tim.
Okay. Yeah, we have it. So I think that is what we were waiting for on this one. There was also questions I recall on how the material that's taken out is going to be taken to, according to the narrative, to the stump dump, and I assume that means T.W. Nickerson landscaping site.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we're not dealing with Japanese knotweed or material that really propagates from rhizomes. We can all be taken to the stump dump and ground and composted.
Okay. Yeah, that was really what I was going to ask, is whether there will be any knotweed or.
I didn't see any Japanese knotweed on the property.
Or anything that would wind up in the mulch that then gets, sold. In other words, the procedures for making sure that doesn't get that what gets taken out of there doesn't show up in other people's yards when they take the mulch.
I mean, that's where it all goes, pretty much.
Yeah.
There is a prohibition of disposing of yard waste through the transfer station portion of the town's facility.
I actually did not know that, so that's good to know. All right.
Yeah, so it's the typical stuff: cardboard, tires, landscape,
right.
Yard waste, and things like that can't be disposed of in the building.
Okay. So I think that's all we were waiting for, and I'll open it up to any questions. Actually, I'll start with Bob on this one, on the revised.
David, I had a question on the planting narrative here, or the management narrative. On the watering, it says replant area as described on planting plan and install a temporary water system set up to ensure new plants take hold. And then it says to be removed within 3 seasons. Shouldn't that be after 3 seasons in case there's a impending drought or something like that?
Yep. I mean, we could make that change. I don't, and I think we can get that to you by your working meeting. That shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah. Water is the key to survival, of these plants. That's why I asked. Okay, other than that, I don't see anything else. I think it's a good project to remove all those invasives and plant all these natives. So I think it's a win for the environment, for the ecology of the area. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Anything, how about you, Tom?
I find Bob's argument very persuasive. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Latin.
I don't have anything extra. Thank you.
Okay. And I don't as well. I think it's clear now now that we have the planning plan, what's happening, and no trees are coming out. The invasives being removed and replaced. And so it's a net win, as Bob said. So do we have a motion then to continue this one as well to the April 7th work session?
I make a motion.
Sorry.
Hello?
Okay.
I just wanted to make a note that part of this project is maintenance of views, and we would like a condition, an ongoing condition that they continue to maintain the views with proper notice of the agent. I think there's some standard language for that.
So, good question, good point. Do you have in any materials that you submitted the delineation of the view corridor?
It's pretty much what we show on the plan. This started off as a view management project, and because there were so many invasives, we understood that the commission wouldn't prefer us to just annually continually top the invasives, which obviously invigorates them. So that's why it kind of evolved into a restoration project. But it's pretty much the corridor you see. We'd like to manage that the entire area. It's really the only views this property has out to the southwest over the Salt Marsh into Nantucket Sound.
So you're asking for an ongoing condition that the view be maintained by the owner?
Yeah. And in the past, the typical condition would be that photographs would be taken prior to the work being done, and notice be sent to the agent, and then either the agent goes out to the site with the property owner to review what's going to be done, and then take pictures afterwards.
Paul, do you have any comments on that request?
Actually, I mean, David's correct. I think the way it should be done is that the commission still maintains, control over what is proposed. He proposes something to the agent then transmits that to the commission, either at a work session or whatever, so that you have an ongoing kind of, whenever this is done on an annual basis, whatever, it's an ongoing condition, but there are, the conditions are such that there's the ability for the conservation commissioners to have input over what is happening, not just let the agent decide. I don't know. I mean, I'm not comfortable with that because you're talking about an ongoing condition that could go on, basically in perpetuity. So
right.
It should be done, just as David said, with pictures, whatever, and then you make your decisions on an annual basis, very specifically, and then you guys decide kind of what to do. That's just a recommendation. I don't know what Nicole would want to do, but it can be done. It's not difficult to do. We just have to draft language that's appropriate.
Right. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure procedurally, mechanically, how we, so this would be an ongoing condition.
Yeah, it's an
But-
ongoing, go ahead.
Yeah, but how do we have the review process?
Well, it would basically probably come to a work session where, you know, it's presented to the commission. This is what, unless the commission doesn't want any control over, you know, those decisions, they're going to leave it up to the agent. Either way, you know, it can be done with language. I don't know what, you have the commissioners here now. Maybe they, you know, they might prefer to have input as to what's cut on an annual basis. Or
Well, yeah, assuming that they would want that, how, so the applicant would come each time they wish to maintain the view with a, what, an AR, with a
oh, it would just be a proposal that's submitted to the commission and be put on the agenda at a work session with notice, and the commissioners would review it and approve it or
but the proposal has to be, I think, in the form of either an AR or an RDA.
Sure, that can be done.
Well, we're trying to avoid
having
the expense of doing an RDA. I mean, an RDA in Chatham is nearly as expensive as a notice of intent, because Chatham requires notification to the butters and a project narrative and a site plan, and you know, we have done projects in the past where there's an ongoing condition allowing maintenance of the view. I don't think it's any different than other ongoing conditions the commission places on projects, such as maintenance of mitigation areas, maintenance of drainage structures, and things like that. So,
you know, we could draft some language that, you know, for the work session that you can discuss and approve. But I think David's correct. We would just have it worded the way that you want to, so they come back in and it's an ongoing review that's presented to the commission, or you decide that the agent is going to have, you know, make that decision in the field and just take yourselves out of it. I myself have always been more comfortable with having the commission have some input over that. That's up to you guys, but pretty simple to draft some language for the work session in order to do an ongoing condition for a view shed with input.
All right, well, we'll do our best to draft such language. I still remain a little puzzled on what vehicle that would take the form of, though, if it isn't one of the, you know, we don't have, in my experience, proposals, just sort of like a memo, come to the commission saying, can we do the following? Unless it's in the form of an RDA or an NOI or so forth. So we'll give it a try, but I don't know. I guess maybe at that point, Nicole will be able to provide some input on that vehicle. We'll do our best.
I will look at one of the old orders that we were involved with where something similar was done.
Sure, yeah, that'd be helpful if you can suggest
out.
actual language for us to consider. Sure.
Yeah, and I think he's probably going to prefer to language where the agent makes the decision. Whatever.
But you were trying to deflect, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll see how that goes. All right.
Bob, I think it can be done as an administrative order. That is, they present a proposal to the agent who then brings it to the commission for approval or denial.
Perhaps.
So it can be done fairly informally.
Typically, administrative reviews are done by the agent without necessarily input from the commission, but we'll work it out. All right. Do we have a motion to continue 9 Chatham Lane to April 7th work session?
Clark, second.
We need a motion first.
Yes.
Oh, thought you were doing it.
I just got a quick question. If we had a view corridor, would we need permanent markings in the field?
I don't think we would, but this is why my initial question was, is it indicated somehow on the site map that we have? And I think David's contention is that it's the whole area, I guess. correct me, David, if I'm wrong about that.
That's correct.
So it wouldn't hurt, though, I think, to have on that on the site plan, or I can't remember now, we have a site plan and a mitigation plan, that the area that's designated there is eligible for view corridor pruning. In my view. If you can, any opinions on that, Paul? I'm hearing crickets here.
I mean, if you're talking about another revised plan, you can make your motion contingent on receiving such a plan.
Right. That's what I would prefer, just so it's all clear for future commissions.
That's fine.
Yeah. All right. So then we can, do we have a motion already?
No, I can make it now.
Okay. Make it so that it's contingent upon that change to the plan.
Okay, I make a motion that we bring this to the April 7th work session for an order of conditions contingent on receiving an updated plan with language describing a view corridor where the planting takes place.
Right.
Clark, second.
All right. A roll call vote. Commissioner Delvecchio.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Latin.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So that we will see you, or we will bring this up on the April 7th workstation.
Thank you.
All right, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next on the agenda is another notice of intent, 41 Locust Lane. Jonathan O. and Alyssa W. Downs, SE 103478. The hearing open for proposed construction of a catwalk and dug-in steps to assess Black Pond at same address, assesses map 15F, parcel 53, revised plans received. I'll see if I can put those up.
All right. And do we have anyone here for this project?
Good afternoon. This is Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design. Stephanie Sequin with Ryder and Wilcox was presenting this project initially. We are working, Blue Flax Design is working on the restoration plan on the project right now and actually implementing that plan. But I don't know if Stephanie is here.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Hi, good morning.
Oh, there
Stephanie
she is.
Sequin. Hi, sorry about that. Trying a new method. I have some bugs to work out. Stephanie Sequin with Ryder and Wilcox, representing the Downs, who are the owners of 41 Locust Lane. And we met 2 weeks ago to review the proposed path, dug-in steps, and catwalk to provide access to Black Pond. And there was some additional information that you requested. I did submit a revised plan, and I've specified that crushed shell will be placed in between the timbers and the space between the timbers on the dug-in steps, so that will allow it to remain pervious. You asked about the material proposed for the decking, the through flow vinyl decking, and whether or not it would leach contaminants into the soil. And I did get a confirmation through an email from the sales rep that the material does not leach into the surrounding soil or water. And you also had wanted me to compare the impact the proposed catwalk has on allowing sunlight through to the vegetation beneath. It's preferable, where feasible, to have a catwalk oriented in a north-south position. What we have proposed here, the catwalk is rotated about 56 degrees to the northeast. That's obviously to have a more direct route from the path to the pond. I could rotate it more in a north-south direction, but that would simply increase the length of the catwalk and increase the footprint, so kind of defeating the purpose. I did a comparison sort of as mitigation for the proposed catwalk, going over the vegetation. It is elevated, an average of 2 to 2.5 feet above the ground surface, and the through flow decking that's being proposed does allow, it has 43% of its surface is open. So even just laying flat on the ground, 43% of the catwalk or sunlight could go through 43% of the catwalk. You raise that off the ground and even more sunlight can get through to the ground below. By comparison, a typical timber decking structure, if you used 1x4 decking and spaced it 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch, which even using the 3/4 inch gap in between boards would only give you 19% sunlight passing through that timber type of construction. So I think this through flow decking it provides a significant increase in the amount of sunlight that's allowed to penetrate through to the vegetation below. So hopefully that answers all the questions that you had from last week, and I'd be happy to discuss anything else that you have in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, that's consistent with my notes of what we were expecting to see. I did a little research myself on through flow decking, and really all I see is pretty much what you have, which is a statement from the vendor saying, of course, it doesn't leach, but I couldn't find anything to the contrary of that. So I think for the moment, at least, we'll have to accept that unless some new information comes to light. I expressed previously concern about the fact that there's marsh vegetation at the end of the catwalk, and I get the impression it's going to be used for launching kayaks. So I'm going to, I would want to put in the OCs for this, if it is approved, language to the effect that we want a picture of that vegetation. I'm not sure how often, just to make sure that it's not being cut so the kayaks can go to and fro there. And also the standard OC conditions were about storing kayaks out of the resource area. I think you mentioned that they would just place them on the catwalk, which seems a little, might be a little difficult to do without some sort of rack or something. But that just, we'll want to put that as a condition in there. So other than that, I have no further questions. Any from you, Bob?
Yeah, just to follow up with what you just said, Bob, about the storage of the kayaks. Could they add a rack to the structure to get them off the ground and off the walking surface itself? That's for you, Stephanie, I suppose.
Yes, yeah, no, we are proposing a railing on one side, so I'm sure it could easily include a rack as part of that railing structure.
Okay. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Yeah, Stephanie, I think that the owners will be glad they had the rack.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's really a better way to go. Anything from you, Tom?
No, my questions were answered. Thank you.
All right. And Karen?
My questions were answered as well. Thank you.
Okay. So it looks like we were in position to entertain a motion then to continue this to the April 7th work session as well.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue this to the April 7th work session for an order of conditions, I suppose with an updated plan of the rack on the proposed structure.
All right, Commissioner Latin.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we hadn't had a second. Yeah, I'm sorry, Tom.
Well, I
That's
said.
all right. I'm happy to hand off that task to anybody who wants.
All right, I'll give you the first vote then.
All right, aye.
All right, Bob,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
and myself as an aye. So we will continue this to the April 7th work session with the amendment or with the updated plan that we talked about. Pending.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Riley has informed me that he's ready to continue the 517 Stony Hill Road application, if you would like to do that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so Thad has a revised plan, very simple revision. Simply eliminating the path that follows the curved line from the house to the pool area. Thad, can you put that up?
I am working on it at the moment, and
okay. There you go. Oh, see, so the dark green would be the elimination of the lawn path. I don't know if it's going to be just a fescue lawn or if it's going to be mixed in with the mitigation and restoration planning. Jen, are you on?
Yep, I am. And Bill, we would propose that as part of the naturalized restored area.
Okay, so we would like to keep the lawn area on the north side of the dwelling, just to have a little room around the dwelling. I would point out that, and I'll ask either Jen or Thad to give us the numbers, but we're way over in a sense in terms of mitigation and restoration. And so I know that it's not a favorite of yours, Mr. Chair, but I believe that allowing this tiny little area of lawn on the north side of the house is appropriate given the massive mitigation restoration we're doing. I'm pretty sure either Thad or Jen can give you the numbers in terms of how many square feet.
I don't think numbers would be necessary, but I agree that the mitigation is beyond what is required. So, yeah, I appreciate the effort towards moving toward the middle here, and I think as far as I'm concerned, I would be okay with moving ahead with that change in the plan. We're reducing some lawn in the NTZ. We're keeping a little bit that's necessary around the end of the house, so I could live with that. Any other comments from? Yeah, any comments from other commissioners on this?
I have a couple, Bob.
Okay.
That lawn area behind the house, will that be irrigated or not?
I think I answered that with one of the other commissioners' questions. That ideally we would like to be able to irrigate that small area up there, just because there is such limited amount of area for a new homer to use on this property, considering the size of it. So it would be nice if we could do that, but again, it would be all fescue anyway. So it would be definitely a lawn that would be the right sustainable choice for any sort of responsible way to have lawn.
Yeah, I would make a recommendation that we not allow permanent irrigation in that space, and just allow it on the front, and the other lawn areas would be fine. And also the parking area, that's not labeled as being pervious. Is that a pervious area to the west of the building?
Oh, very good. It is proposed to be a stone or shell parking area.
Could that be labeled as such?
Yep.
And also around the pool, the patio, is that going to be pervious or impervious?
That would be a dry laid patio. So pervious.
Okay, could that be labeled as well?
Okay.
And so other than that, if we can make those changes, I'd be in favor of the plan. Thank you.
Yeah, I echo your interest, Bob, in not having any. We had never have allowed in-ground irrigation in the no disturb zone. We wouldn't be able to make an exception here as well. Any other comments or questions from anybody else? Okay. So it looks like we are ready for a motion to continue this to the April 7th work session as well.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue this to the April 7th work session for an order of conditions.
Clark, second.
Commissioner Latin.
Aye.
Commissioner DeVecchio.
Aye.
Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So we'll pick this up on April 7th. And thank you all for working with us on this.
Oh, well, thanks for the courtesy of allowing us to make the revision during the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right, Paul.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Next on the agenda, a notice of intent, 227 Vineyard Avenue, James Azenero, I mispronounced these names, I'm sorry, Jr. and Azenero, SE 10-3471, proposed construction of a garage addition, invasive species control at same address, assessors map 11C, parcel D131. I just have to add one note for 517 Stony Hill. It was continued to the April 7th work session. We still have no SE number, so Mr. Riley might want to give DEP a call to get that going. He wants his order by then. That's about it.
Bill, are you still on the line, or did you hear that?
I'll reach out to him.
Okay. All right. All right. Do we have anyone here for? Oh,
sorry, David Clark here for Azenaros. The commission asked us to take a look at trying to get the garage as far out of the no disturb zone as possible. So there was some room to move it closer to the street, and that reduces the amount of the garage within the NDZ to the salt marsh by 86 square feet.
Right. And I'm trying to, echoing again. Trying to figure out whether, so the other things that we were asking for, just making sure we have them.
Chairman Rawls, this is Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design. I can update you on what was requested from our office.
Okay. All right.
So our office, we updated our site plan to revise it so that with the new garage location, we added an American holly to our plant schedule, and we removed the privet hedge from the plan. So those are the updates that I believe were requested at the last hearing of this project.
Yeah, I think that's what I have. When you say remove the privet hedge from the plan,
we've removed it entirely.
Entirely, even along the entire area where it originally was. Okay, good.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. Very good. That is what I recall we asked for, and I appreciate it. Do we have any comments or questions from anyone on the changes? So hearing none, do we have a motion to continue 227 Vineyard to the April 7th work session.
Make a motion that we continue 227 Vineyard Ave through the work session on April 7th for an order of conditions.
Clark, second.
Commissioner Latin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner DeVecchio,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. So we will take this up on April 7th, along with quite a few others.
Thank you.
You realize we're going to lose a weekend because of this.
All right, so.
Good for the next one, Mr. Chair. Okay, next on the agenda is the, I'm sure you'll have to hear the last notice of intent for today. 305 Main Street, Timothy C. Emerson, Rockwell Trust, care of Peter Emerson and Susan Gordon, trustee, SE 103393. This is a continuance of a hearing for proposed demolition of a cottage, construction of a new cottage, construction of a building addition to a single-family home, same address, assessors map 16C, parcel 33.
Is anybody here for 305 Main?
Yes, David Clark here. Yeah, I guess nobody received the email requesting a continuance. So we're still working with Historic Commission on this one. It's been a year, I think, or getting close to a year. I think we're on the home stretch for the Historic Commission, but we still have to go to Zoning Board of Appeals too. So I'd like to continue it to April 28th, if that's available.
Yeah, I believe that we're okay with April 28th. Yes. So no new updated materials. You're simply waiting on Historic.
There's been a small change to the main house, and rather than dealing with that with the commission now, we want to have a sense of where we stand with Historic before we present that to the commission. It's a small change,
right.
But nonetheless, it is a change, and we will get you revised plans at least a week before that meeting if we're going to proceed on the 28th.
Okay. So do we have a motion then to continue 305 Main to the April 28th hearing?
I'll make a motion that we continue 305 Main Street to the April 28th hearing.
Clark, second.
Commissioner DeVecchio, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Latin?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
I vote aye, so we will see you on April 28th.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, is an extension request. The address is 41 Mill Pond Lane, Maria Anderson, SE 10 3251. Proposed elevated stairs over a coastal bank and land management plan, same address, assessors map 15C, parcel 9-7A. There's nothing to show here. I did call Crawford Landscaping and asked them to be specific about why they were requesting the extension. And what they told me was they've had some problems with the plants that they planted. They've died, so they need to replant some material. And also they're dealing with knotweed on the site. So I think an extension would be appropriate in this particular case.
Okay. Is this their, which number of extension? First one, okay. All right, do we have a motion then to continue, or to, I guess, how do you say this, to approve the extension request for 41 Mill Pond Lane?
Make a motion that we approve the extension request for 41 Mill Pond Lane.
Clark, second.
Commissioner Latin?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner DeVecchio?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so we will approve, I guess, the extension request.
Okay, next on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, is the violation at 41 Frostfish Hill, Patrick O'Reilly. This was on the agenda today for a review of the revised planting plan. I don't know who's presenting on the other side. I know there were some issues that you're aware of, Mr. Chairman, you and Janet were, but I don't have much to add. You've already.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
my understanding is that the applicant's lawyer was reviewing some of the language and had some changes that they requested. Janet was working with them on that, and I don't know exactly where that is at the moment. If there's anyone here who can speak to that.
David Clark, on behalf of the O'Reillys. We did take a look at the draft order. It's still at the headers, says it's pursuant to the Wetlands Protection Act and the local wetland regulations. Again, this is not a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act or the local regulations. It's an encroachment on an easement that the Conservation Commission is the holder of. So we'd like that language removed. And also, I think there's language in there about ongoing restrictions. I think that, again, that's beyond the purview of the commission. There are already restrictions in place, similar restrictions in the recorded document that are binding to this homeowner. And I don't think this is the forum to add new restrictions. And those are really the only two issues. The applicant is, the homeowner is fine with the rest of the document as far as monitoring and also the issuance of a certificate of compliance. We think that's probably appropriate in this case, in that it's a document that both parties can hold to show that the work was done in satisfaction to the commission. And that's
All
it.
right. Okay, so the version that is on, I recall Janet addressing those requests, and I thought she had made the changes. So I'm just wondering whether or not you have her version.
Yeah, she sent a revised document a couple of days after the last meeting, and most of all the changes were made, except for it still said on the header pursuant to the Wetlands Protection Act or something.
Okay, well, the version that I'm looking at doesn't have it, so I think what
Okay.
what I'll do is we'll get you this version just in case it didn't get to you.
Okay.
And see what you think about that. But I think
All
she
right.
was okay. She was okay with the requests, and I thought she had actually made the changes. So
Okay.
we'll do that and see if
Then I
that
think
looks good to you.
Yeah, but I think then we're there, because I know the homeowner wants to get going in the next few weeks to implement this and
Right,
get this done.
spring is coming,
Yep.
and so Paul, procedurally, if we get this version over to David, and they reply back to say that it's good, we'll still need to vote on it, though.
Well, you have to, are you thinking about the April 7th work session?
I think that would be our only option.
Okay.
Because we have to make sure that they see this and approve it first.
So I guess make a motion to continue.
Yeah, so I guess that's what we'll do is we'll
I
entertain a motion to.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be, and the motion can be just continue to April 7th, and then you can take it up at that meeting, because there'll probably be further discussion back and forth, maybe on the language. I'm not sure, but
Could be, right. Okay, so if that's okay with you, David, we'll continue
Sounds
this to
good.
April 7th. So if we can have a motion to that effect.
Make a motion that we continue this 41 Frostfish Hill violation to the work session on April 7th.
Clark, second.
Okay, let's have a vote. Commissioner Latin,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Del Vecchio,
Aye.
And myself I vote aye. So we will hopefully be in position to vote on this on the April 7th work session.
Okay, moving on now to the certificates of compliance. The first one on the list is 3 Oyster Drive, Stephen Levine, SE 10 3372, elevation of existing dwelling, addition of deck and stairs. This is fairly easy. This work was never completed. The owner is now wanting to sell the place and basically just needs a certificate of compliance stating that the work was never done or completed, and we check that box and it's a COC, and then the title encumbrance is cleared and he can go ahead and sell it, and that's basically it. So if there's anything to show or to do on this one, basically just to vote, I guess.
We vote for a complete compliant,
Yeah,
or no, we make a note. Check the box that says work was
yes,
never performed. Okay.
right. Yep.
All right. So do we have a motion to approve this certificate, noting that it was never completed?
Make a motion that we approve the certificate of compliance for 3 Oyster Drive, noting that the work was never completed.
Clark, second.
All right, Commissioner Latin,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Delvecchio,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So that is approved.
Okay, next on the agenda is 43 Seaview Street. Again, this is a COC. Calduna, I'm going to mangle this one. McVassel, SE 10 3058, construction of a patio, deck extension, retaining wall, and cutback driveway. Remember a little trouble sharing these files? I don't know what's going on, but let me at least do an explanation for you. Give me 1 sec. So, Ryder Wilcox went out and did an on-site reviewing the order on September 16th and have submitted a full COC package with photographs, checked off all the boxes that they needed to check off, and the site is in compliance with respect to the work that I just described. And I'm going to see if I can share this with you. But
I think I may have done it, Paul.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Let me get out of this then. Oh, there you go. Good. Okay. So I didn't see any issues with this. There wasn't anything that was done in excess of the order. So we have the recorded order. We have all the documents that we need to issue the certificate. And I would recommend a full COC for 43 Seaview Street.
Okay. No questions myself. Anybody else? And hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the certificate of compliance?
Make a motion that we approve the certificate of compliance for 43 Seaview Street.
Commissioner
Clark,
Latin.
second.
Oh, yeah, Commissioner Latin.
Aye.
Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
Commissioner Delvecchio.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So that COC is approved.
And Mr. Chairman, if you could help me with the next one too.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I just somehow not my share screen thing just went down. The next COC request is 597 Orleans Road and 0 Wells Hollow Road, William P. Howe III, and Christine A. Hardy, Heather H. Caney, SE 10 3174. This was a project for land management, and a partial certificate was issued for completion of the work at 0 Wells Hollow Road and recorded by Wilkinson. Yeah. This is a fairly complex one. Hold on a second. There were 3 phases for this project. I'm sorry, that's not correct. This was a project basically to, hold on.
Yeah, I'm having trouble too also, Paul.
Yeah,
Just a
I don't know.
second.
Hold on 1 second. Here we go.
Is that, are you seeing it or am I?
Yeah, I am seeing it. That's
Okay.
great. So the project activities were native restoration planting in early 2018. Monitoring reports were submitted in accordance with the order. The commission was informed, and those reports were reviewed. Another site visit was conducted on October 28, 2019, and basically Wilkinson's requesting a certificate of compliance for the restoration and management work that was done, with an ongoing condition number 1 and number 2. The first one is to allow the ongoing maintenance of invasive species to remove them. The second ongoing condition would be an annual mow in late winter or early spring. So again, this looks complete to me. Everything is in order. They submitted everything they needed to, and I went back to look at the history, and all the monitoring reports are submitted. They're excellent reports. So at this time, it looks to me like we're ready to go ahead and issue the COC for this project at 597 Orleans Road.
Well, it certainly does look nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we could consider that to be a success. So do we have a motion to approve the certificate?
I'll make a motion that we approve the certificate of compliance for 597 Orleans Road.
Clark, second.
Commissioner Latin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Vecchio,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So that is
Okay.
approved.
Last on the list is COC for 183 Taylor's Pond Road and parcel T6A, which is a common area at Taylor's Pond Road, SE10 2727. This project was for the installation of fiber rolls and shorefront protection and stability and erosion control. There were 3 extensions on this project that were approved. Callie, as the former agent, was in discussion with an owner that took ownership of the property after the order was issued. And basically, I have an email from Callie in the file that basically says that after phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 were done, there's still more to be done on this site for shoreline stability and erosion control. And what Callie suggested is to close out the COC, and they would file a new notice of intent for the new work that needs to be done. So procedurally, that's how, I guess there was an agreement to do that. I have handwritten notes here with Callie's emails. So I'd recommend that you approve the COC, close this out, and they'll be coming back with more stabilization fiber roll work for this site. They've had some issues with storm damage, and some of the previous attempts failed because of that. So I think they just want to come back with a different proposal at this time to deal with the issues that this property seems to be dealing with. The storm damage is a little bit elevated here. So I'd recommend approval.
So approve it, although there were issues.
Yeah. There were 3 phases that were involved. There was a canopy that was removed, a partial canopy. The commission determined that this project could be permitted with minimal adverse impacts. The 3 phases were undertaken. Fiber rolls were installed. They were staked, but there was storm damage. And again, after several meetings and discussions with Callie, they just decided that the best way that they should proceed is not to continue with this because they've had so many extensions, but to close it out and start again with a new.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to understand what we mean by closing it out. Do we approve it?
Do a full certificate for the.
Full certificate.
Yep.
And we have an understanding with the applicant that
they've got all their extensions used up, so basically they gotta come in with a new project. There was a discussion about amending the order, but I guess from what I can read in the file, that alternative was, put aside for, filing a new notice of intent. So if you issue a full COC on the project, they'll come back with another, notice of intent to address the issues that they have on the project.
And we have it on the record that they have agreed to come with a new
Yes, yeah.
NOI.
Well,
So if we close this,
yeah, I'm reading from Cal.
we lose our leverage, but we
Yeah.
have an understanding.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Can I have a question?
Yes.
Yeah, sure, Tom.
Can't we approve what's been done as a partial?
Well, I'm really, this is a historical issue with the file, a lot of procedure involved here. This is what was decided between Callie and the applicants, and I believe that there was commission involvement, maybe not with you, Tom, or the present commission, because this project goes over such a long period of time. I don't think a partial would really do the job. What they're trying to do here is close this out, which means they can't do anything unless they come back with a new notice of intent to address the stability issues that they have out there with the bank. So a partial, I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense. I would think a full COC, and then they'll have to come back. They can't do anything else without coming back to you with an application. So your jurisdiction over the project remains. And again, I'm just reiterating what was decided by the agent and the commission previously. It's up to you.
I'm just concerned that we would appear to approve things that haven't been done. That's my only concern.
Well, there were 3 phases. If you're uncomfortable with this, I mean, given the history of it, you could certainly continue it to a future hearing and go out and look at it, and we can review the file. You can go over it. But I mean, that's basically kind of it.
No, I think if the
their,
agent thinks that this is a reasonable way to resolve the matter, I'm willing to defer to the agent's judgment.
okay. And again, I mean, I wasn't involved in this, and the 3 phases.
No, I understand.
All right. Okay. Good. All right. I just want to make it clear that from my perspective, it seems this was a logical decision to be made, and it was the correct one by Callie. So that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I share some of the same trepidation that Tom does about approving something that was not completed. We usually avoid that.
Well, it was, the 3 phases were completed. They just didn't take. So
okay, they were unsuccessfully completed.
Right. They just kept coming back. Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
Okay.
Clear.
So the work was performed.
Yep.
Okay.
Just didn't take. They had problems. They got extensions. Then they discussed amending the order to try to deal with it in the future. And then Cal said, why don't you just file a new notice of intent and commit to the project, and let's close this one out.
So by all appearances, a good faith effort was made on the part of the applicants to complete the project, all 3 phases. Okay. So we'll as far as I'm concerned, that's a reasonable approach. So any other comments or questions? All right, do we have a motion then to, before I say this, Paul, is there a way to have language into the certificate that says, I don't know if this is even appropriate to say, we expect another NOI.
I'm not sure that's.
It's probably not appropriate.
No.
Yeah.
Again, they're sort of between a rock and a hard place. They can't do anything else out there without filing with you. So I guess.
Well, it would be assumed that they want to do something else.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Okay.
It's clear from the notes in the file that is the intent. They want to come back with something new, and they just gave it every effort, but they got to redesign it or do something else.
Okay. Well, we'll take it on faith ourselves in a little bit. So do we have a motion then to approve the certificate of compliance?
Make a motion that we approve the certificate of compliance for 183 Taylor's Pond Road.
Clark happily seconds the motion with the thought that the agent ought to put it on the calendar for like 6 months out, so that to remind him or herself, as the case may be, and the commission that there's still more related to this site.
Copy that.
Yeah, to follow up with them. Yeah. All right, Commissioner Latin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Delvecchio?
Aye.
And I vote as aye as well.
So that is it, Mr. Chairman.
That brings us to the end. Yes.
You
Think
wanna-
I have anything else?
I don't know if you want to discuss the number of orders you have. I think we talked about
Yeah, we have a lot of orders.
Tom's weekend, I think was.
How many did you say? I couldn't hear you.
Let's see. I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus one in the hopper from the last meeting. So that's 8. That's my count. So we can do this later if you want. But
Yeah, I think let me
okay.
Cogitate, but I guess my fellow commissioners can sense what's coming. We're in a position where we have a new agent showed up today, and we have Paul, who is heroically doing the work of 2 jobs during this interim period, and so I'll be asking for help with doing these orders and conditions. So I'll work that out and send out what I think might be a good way to go. I'll send it out soon.
That'd be great.
Yeah. All right. So, without any other business, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Latin,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
DeVecchio,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you all, and thank you for bearing with me today as I fumbled through this.
You did a great job, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
You did an excellent job, Bob.
All right. Well, we got through it, and I'll be in touch.
Okay. Thank you, guys.